Hotchin.
Hey, I'm just delighted to be here with Graham. Graham Allcott, founder of Think Productive, and you're a sole trader. You do know that, you're in here. I just wanted to chat to you a bit about you, your work and your story, because you're director of Think Productive. And for those people who don't know about Think Productive, tell us just in a nutshell what you do.
So we help companies, individuals, charities, government organisations to tackle information stress in the way that they work.
And there's a lot of that around.
There's a lot of it around. People are overwhelmed, people are overloaded, and we help people with the way that they think. So the company's called Think Productive.
Right.
So we run through different tools. We have a workshop called Getting Your Inbox to Zero. We have one called How to Get Things Done.
So it's all the kind of stuff.
Magic. Yep.
Got it. So it's all this kind of stuff like you're at your desk, you're working in an office, the emails, the filing, the stuff, all that kind of content, all that stuff to help people organise it and be productive and efficient around that kind of stuff.
Absolutely, and we work in a very practical way as well. So the workshops that we do, half the time is spent in the workshop room and half the time is at people's desks actually getting through all that stuff and working out better systems and better ways of working.
Got you. And you've been on this journey of actual sole traders. You started out, it was just you. When we met a few years ago, there was just you.
Yep.
You did work with associates, and your plan was to build a business, to take it from, I'm trying to remember the term that you used, from being like a consultant to being an entrepreneur.
Yeah, from freelancer to entrepreneur was the way I talked about it for a long time.
So what's that journey involved in a nutshell? What was that journey about for you, and how did you go about those steps? Because it's quite daunting. Somebody's got an idea to run a business, but then that wherewithal to go on that journey, hiring staff, finding premises, going for bigger clients is quite scary. So what did that involve for you?
So for me, I think the reason for doing it, first of all, was really to try and build something that was scalable beyond me. So to build something where we could do workshops and it wasn't reliant on my time, my energy, because there's only ever going to be one of me. So how can we build something that can be much bigger, much more impactful, and do things that maybe my skill set isn't sort of best suited to. So I mean, there's a whole kind of series of steps. I think the main thing for me was changing my mindset. The kind of key influential book for me was reading The E-Myth by Michael Gerber, very famous.
I like the way you're mentioning other people's books. When it's so good. No, but it's true, isn't it?
But that was the kind of inspiration really for me. Was reading that book, and
that beautifully does capture lots of that stuff, that mindset shift that needs to happen. So for you, it's that mindset.
Yeah.
And did you have a clear idea of what you wanted the business to look like?
I did, yeah. It's quite funny because I'm now at this point of thinking, what else can I do and other businesses, and there's nothing that I've thought of where I have such a clear idea as I did with Think Productive. Like from day one, I was like, here's what I want the business to look like, here's roughly how many people, here's how we would work, here's the kind of branding we would have, the kind of services we would offer, the kind of things we would do. Everything was very kind of clear in my mind about what I needed to do, the particular kind of measures of success. All that stuff was just was just something that I was very fixed on and focused on.
And that's really powerful, isn't it? Because it's interesting. One thing that impressed me about you is that from when we first met, you had this. We sat down with a piece of paper. You were talking through all the kind of things you wanted to do, and all the different things you've talked about doing. You've done finding premises, bringing on board staff, moving premises, and not just that kind of stuff, the live stuff. Everything from where does one should be based. You were very mindful about it. Wasn't just about you wanted that life balance as well as an entrepreneur, and you made decisions, for example, about moving from London to moving by the coast, where it was far more of a life kind of balance stuff. So that's one of the things that's really impressed me about you. To you, does that feel? Do you recognise how much of the stuff that you've achieved, or are you not really, or is it just you being you?
I think it's just me being me, to be honest. I think, so I was living in London, been in London, in wonderful city for a good few years, and was just kind of needing to get out and make some change. So we had to move the business at quite an early stage from London to Brighton.
Yeah.
And there was a whole load of soul searching to do around that, such as will clients still take us seriously if we're not based in London, all this kind of stuff that actually is just quite London centric. If you lived in London, that's just how Londoners think, but actually once you get out, it's
Yeah, so that must be kind of, that's I guess there's that, because that brings with it the life balance change, the space that you want to be in, and then there's that kind of stuff about, okay, is this going to fit with our clients, and making that work. And how did you find stuff like that move? Was it in the end easy, or again was it the mental stuff that was most tough around that kind of move?
Yeah, I think probably the mental stuff around it is always the hard bit. But I think once you've come to a decision, once you know what you're going to do, you set your mind to it and then just work towards that.
Right. And what, for you, what's been the highlight along that kind of journey? Because I guess from that journey of having an idea, making it happen, bringing on board staff, running the programs that you run, getting some amazing clients you've had. I mean, tell us a little bit about some of the clients that you've worked with.
So we work with people like eBay, Heineken, Coutts Bank, the Queen's Bank, Barclays. A whole range of different organisations. We work with government departments, big charities, small charities. So a real kind of range. I mean, the stuff that we do, everyone's overwhelmed. Everyone wants to get more done. It's very universal to anyone who's a knowledge worker, as we call them, whose job is around information and adding value in some way.
You've hit on something that, from a business point of view, it's a very universal need. It's a universal need, isn't it? That, as you say, were you aware of that commercially, or was it just a passion kind of thing? Because that's the other thing about being an entrepreneur, isn't it? There's that funny balance between doing what I love and then how am I going to make this work in a way that's kind of commercially viable? Or were you aware of that kind of stuff? Were you consciously aware, or were you just like, no, this is what I want to do and I'm just going to make it work and I'm going to make sure that it becomes commercially viable?
I think the consciousness for me was all the stuff I'd done before. For the last sort of 3 years, I'd been a freelancer working just with charities, doing consultancy with charities. Charities was my background, and that's what I knew. And people were hiring me rather than buying a thing. Yeah. So I think the transition was kind of realising this productivity stuff, which coincidentally I'd spent the last few years reading loads of books about, really to work on my own productivity. So all these different worlds collided where it's like, hey, I'm really passionate about this. I can go into a whole range of businesses and talk really credibly around this, which up till that point I could only really go into charities and talk about the sort of charity background that I had. So it was kind of realising this has commercial scope across a very broad number of people. It's something that's a bit more scalable than just when people just buy Graham's time. And it's something that's really fun to do and I really love doing. So it was kind of all those things, merging at one single point really, and the light bulb moment from there.
And I think that you've, I guess, in that had to go over the bridge that when I'm coaching people, I think is the toughest bridge, which is where you go from it just being you to it suddenly hiring staff and the costs that are involved with that and so on. Tell us a little bit particularly for, I guess, for people who are kind of watching this and they've got their business, perhaps they're even in their business already and they're doing okay, maybe like yourself, they were doing quite well effectively as a consultant where it's just them, and then they're wanting to go on that stage and they're wanting to make it bigger, or they're wanting to bring on board staff, or they're needing to take a premise. What would your advice be to somebody who is on that journey? They kind of want to do it, but they're not sure if they've got the courage or where to start. What's your take on it?
I'll share kind of, I think, the two stages of that for me, because I think that hopefully will resonate with people. So the first stage was giving up the job, so realising that I wasn't going to have a pay packet coming in on a set day every month was quite a scary thing. So making that move first, and then 6 months in, 9 months in, a year in, 18 months in, realising I'm surviving, this is okay, and there's ebbs and flows, but that's a big plunge to take. So I'd say as long as you've got a really good sense of what your worth is, and if you're selling your time, or if you're you have a particular service or whatever, and that there's some viability out there around that, and you've got some skills around that, then I would say go for it. At the very worst, you get into a bit of debt and you go and get another job. I mean, people have this nightmare scenario that the world's going to end. The second step for me then was once I was freelance, was then taking the step into running a business, which is a bit more risky, because then you have payroll, you have a much bigger burn every month of money, and very quickly that,
because you've suddenly got staff, because you've got
so
others,
suddenly having staff and premises and all this kind of stuff, you realise that actually if you have 2 or 3 bad months, you don't have money in your personal bank account to be able to bail that out. So that's the kind of 2-stage taking the plunge thing for me. And I think it was much easier for me to take that second step, having taken the first one, and become comfortable with not having the regular kind of pay packet. So that's how I did it. I mean, a lot of people will just give up their day job and then go to the bank and borrow a load of money and set up a very big business very quickly. And I'm sure there's people who have really done very well out of that route. But I think for me, the idea of being able to take that a little bit more slowly and just test myself at each sort of stage of that to say, is this what I want? Is this working? Is this how I want to spend the rest of my time? And it does become a bit of a lifestyle in itself. And I think you have to test out if that's what you want.
And tell me a little bit about what, before we close, I definitely want to ask you a little bit about your book, because one of the things that's happened since this particular book is your book, so, How to Be a Productivity Ninja, which is, and that ninja is part of your, I guess, your brand about helping people really think cleverly, shrewdly, smartly, swiftly, adeptly about fighting through technology. Tell us, just in a nutshell, a bit about that and a bit about where you're at with the business now. And I know it's just become a bestseller, and I think the business books kind of area. So presumably you're really pleased about that.
Yeah, no, it's been great. So the book's been out just a couple of months.
Yeah.
And it's called How to Be a Productivity Ninja. So it's on Amazon and everywhere else. And the ninja idea is really about taking that whole battle against information overload and the battle against stress that we face, and then applying a ninja mindset to it. So we talk about Zen-like calm, we talk about ruthlessness, being weapon savvy, knowing what's going to work, what's not going to work, being prepared, and also being mindful. So there's a whole kind of series of different techniques that throughout the book we talk about that sort of plays on this kind of ninja idea, which is hopefully a little bit fun and a little bit kind of accessible. We've had some really great reviews and people going, I'm a little ninja and I'm a happy little ninja and all this kind of stuff. So people are really resonating with that stuff, and it's great to have it out there. It's great to get the tweets and the emails about it.
And tell me a little bit about, I want to ask you a little bit about life balance, because I know it's something you're mindful about, and it's quite good. One of the things I think that's good about you is that you have always been mindful that you've got to practice what you preach.
Yeah.
You've got to apply the stuff to yourself, and you've also got to be very productive. And and I think that one of the things I talk about in the book is that you used to take yourself off somewhere abroad for several months of the year to think and to focus, and you deliberately made that decision to move for life balance things, and you're always mindful about your personal goals when we've been working together as well as your business goals, and that really has impressed me. Has that always been very important to you? Do you think it's especially important because of the nature of your business? Or tell us a bit about that, because it's a real achievement. Many business owners don't achieve that balance.
It's definitely especially important given what we do. So one of our values is we walk our talk, so all of the stuff around being prepared, being mindful, all that stuff has to happen. We have to demonstrate that what we do really works. So for me, to write the book, I realised that sort of month by month I was just not really getting through the word count that I needed to in terms of writing that first draft. And it was because I had 101 other things going on, and I was running a growing business and all this kind of stuff. So I took myself off to Sri Lanka and just sat there, really crappy mobile phone, the cheapest thing you can find that didn't have any apps on it or anything like that, and just gave me that real focus to write the book. And then what I tend to do is for about a month a year go usually to India, it's usually Goa, and just take that time out. So that's my time, which I think is a really big thing actually for anyone working for themselves. It's like, if you're in a corporate team, you have an away day, you have like a strategy day, you have a day where you take that step back and you think about, what do I do over the next 12 months? What goals do I set?
Extremely important.
What's going on? And for me, I needed to do that myself within the business, so I kind of do that every year.
All the time, and I think that's really important. It's one of the first things in the book is about clarity, and one of the things I talk about within the clarity is that thing about space and that importance of space. So you can actually be clear, you can be effective, you can be mindful, you can plan, and you can plan ahead. Tell me a little bit, before we close, tell me a little bit about what you're wanting to achieve next. What is, because you've achieved lots of things, all the different things that you've had on your list to do. I've been impressed. You've done the move, the house, this, the that, and all the personal goals, married, everything, all these goals that you've achieved. Tell me a little bit about what's next, what you're wanting to do next and achieve those, and to get those top clients, because that's an interesting thing also in a business owner, isn't it? You set your goals, and then when you achieve them, where are you at now, and finally where are you willing to go next?
I'm making a new list. Is where I'm at now. So I've just spent the last month. So I released the book. It was all hands to the pump for sort of 3 or 4 months of real kind of getting the book out there, launching it, all of that stuff, and then just took a month to just kind of, as I call it, go dark. So
yes, I like that term. It's in the book, isn't it? That when nobody can see you, just so you can plan.
It's a kind of ninja stealth tactic, which comes from software development. So when a software developer is kind of just about to do something really amazing, then they're just uncontactable. Right. So I'm not on email. I got rid of all the things like Facebook and stuff off my phone and off my iPad and stuff. So kind of the idea is to disconnect for a bit of time and then just have some fun and you know, refill the creative well as you know, as people are into that creativity stuff.
Got it. So you've got this list, and so you could, well, yeah, at some point I'm hoping you're going to share with me, right? You can tell me. But I'm really excited. But I just want to say thank you. Well done. Really looking forward to the next stuff. I think it's really amazing, and yeah, for me it's also really great where somebody's actually following their passion. I guess maybe just one last word on that for somebody who's thinking about going on this whole journey. What would your tips to be for somebody who's thinking, yeah, you know, I want to follow my passion. There's something within me that I want to do. And what would your just 2 or 3 tips?
I think that the first thing to say is in terms of that mindset. I think the idea of security is a bit of a myth in many ways. So you know, we're in a very volatile employment market, all that kind of stuff. So actually, you're probably in a better position to get out there, as scary as it seems, and just follow whatever that passion is. And secondly, you know, just be really distinctive about. Be distinct about what's your message, what's the thing that you have, what's the thing that you're able to give as that gift to people. So you know, be really you know, focused on the branding of it or the packaging of it and the you know, the kind of definition of it, and that's going to really help people to work out if that's something that they want to buy.
That's really, really important. Well, I want to thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. I'm going to leave you here to smile and to have a look at the book. And thank you.